This is Suzanne au Bain, or Susanna Bathing, painted by French artist Jean-Baptiste Santerre in 1704. It was part of the collection of the Académie royale until 1793, when the Académie was abolished. Since then, the painting has been at the Louvre. Susanna Bathing was a very well-received and successful painting, well known throughout the 18th century. It was engraved and widely reproduced, increasing its audience, and it became Santerre's best-known work, so much so that he was called le peintre de la Suzanne, the painter of Susanna. The painting is large, 2 meters in height, so Susanna, if she stood up and stepped out of the picture, would probably be about life-size. The scene depicted is from the biblical story of Susanna and the elders, which I will say more about in a moment. We can see a stone structure with ancient masonry, which encloses a bath or fountain. The structure is in a garden. Trees can be seen behind it, with a wooded landscape glimpsed in the distance. Susanna has been bathing, and is sitting on the edge of the water, drying herself with a white cloth, which partly conceals her nakedness, but also leaves a great deal exposed. Behind her, in the dark shadow of the wall and the surrounding foliage, 2 bearded men are lurking, their eyes fixed upon Susanna. The one in the foreground, in particular, has a hungry, predatory expression. Susanna seems unconscious of their presence. Suzanne au Bain was Santerre's morceau de réception, his reception piece. Every artist admitted to the Académie royale de peinture et de sculpture was required to produce such a work in order to be received as a full academician. Santerre's admission to the Académie royale was approved in June 1698, and he eventually exhibited Suzanne au Bain as his reception piece in October 1704. He submitted it alongside a portrait of a fellow painter, Noël Coppel. This work is now lost, but in any case, it was Susanna which caught everybody's attention. By the time Jean-Baptiste Santerre painted Susanna, he was well on in his career. He was born in 1651, the son of a merchant, in the town of Magny-en-Vexin, about 50 kilometers northwest of Paris. He trained under the portraitist François Lemaire and the historical and mythological painter Bon Boulogne. Santerre quickly established a solid reputation as a portrait painter, and made an important contribution to French portraiture through his introduction of Netherlandish styles and techniques which he had studied closely. It was as a portrait painter that he was best known, ending his career as court portraitist to the Duke of Orleans during the Regency. From the 1690s, Santerre increased his range to include genre scenes, scenes from history and mythology, and religious subjects. As well as fulfilling his own artistic ambitions, this was a canny commercial move. It increased his potential client base and put him in the running for larger and more prestigious commissions. These considerations may well have influenced his choice of Susanna for his reception piece. Santerre was also known for his studies of the nude. Reputedly, on his deathbed in 1717, he ordered many of his nude sketches destroyed, as he considered them too indecent, and feared for his posthumous reputation. But a degree of refined eroticism is clearly present in his depiction of Susanna. Susanna and the Elders is a narrative of the biblical prophet Daniel. It is found in the Greek, but not the Hebrew, text of the book of Daniel. Susanna, beautiful and married, is bathing one day in her private garden. She has sent her servants away for oil and ointments, so she is alone. 2 old men, respected elders, but also lecherous and unprincipled, spy on her and lust after her as she bathes. They then accost her and try to make her submit to their desires. She resists the assault and refuses, so they try to blackmail her, saying that they will have her condemned as an adulteress who had sent her maids away so that she could meet her lover in private. Susanna is steadfast in refusing their demands, so they carry out their threat. They publicly accuse her of adultery, saying that they saw her being intimate with a young man in the garden. As respected elders of the community, their accusation carries weight, and Susanna is condemned to death. She is about to be executed when the prophet Daniel intervenes, insisting that the men's claims should be tested. He questions them separately, and their stories do not tally. It is clear that their accusations are pure invention. Susanna's innocence is established, she is released, and it is her lying accusers who are put to death. As we have just seen, the blend of sex, voyeurism, violence, and the abuse of power, and the eventual triumph of justice in the story of Susanna has appealed strongly to artists for a very long time. Of course, the fact that Susanna could justifiably be depicted naked made the story even more popular, particularly among male artists and male patrons. This fact has not escaped art historians. Few artistic themes have offered so satisfying an opportunity for legitimized voyeurism as Susanna and the Elders, writes Mary Garrard. Garrard contrasts the typical images of the theme offered by male painters with Artemisia Gentileschi's depictions, authentically female, informed by real experience of a woman's fear and pain at the hands of sexually predatory and violent men, but also conveying Susanna's agency in actively resisting. But that's a painting that needs its own video. Santerre's Susanna offers a dramatic contrast with Gentileschi's. His Susanna is passive, where Artemisia's is active, languid, where hers is vigorous, self-absorbed and relaxed, where hers is terrifyingly aware of what is going on around her. And he has chosen a different part of the narrative, conveying a very different atmosphere. The pivotal moment in the narrative of Susanna and the Elders is when the two elders move to assault her, and this is the moment most commonly depicted in art. It is the most dramatic and sexually charged part of the story, the crowding in of the threatening, predatory men, the cruel hands grabbing at her body, the violence and menace, Susanna's shock and fear. This episode offers the most concentrated charge of sex, coercion, terror, and violence, and particularly appealed to the painters of the Baroque. But Santerre, painting in the early 18th century, is working in a cooler, more restrained mode, reflecting the rising taste for neoclassicism, particularly in the French context. This may have influenced his choice of an earlier stage of the story, before the physical assault, with Susanna bathing, unaware that she is being observed. It also serves to isolate the behavior of the elders at this stage from the violent assault that comes later. The scene is represented as calm and outwardly harmless, but this is an attitude of denial. The assault has begun, in the form of voyeurism, and the act of watching the watchers offers its own frisson to the viewer, who identifies himself, and that viewer is assumed, in this privileging of the male gaze to be male, who identifies himself with the elders, not with Susanna. Other artists sometimes showed Susanna looking in a mirror while bathing. This undermined the morality and virtue which are such important parts of her character, by connecting her with what was believed to be the characteristically female sin of vanity. It also signalled her awareness of herself as an object to be looked at by the elders, but also, by extension, the viewer of the painting. Santerre's Susanna has no mirror, but she is regarding herself, looking down at her own body as she dries herself, creating the same dynamic as if she were looking in a mirror, while increasing the atmosphere of introspection and passivity which surrounds her. Santerre reworked the figure of Susanna several times to increase her sexual allure, altering her proportions to increase the graceful elegance of her limbs and heightening the pearly glow of her skin. X-ray analysis has established that Santerre altered the fall of the white material which Susanna is wrapping round herself to reveal more of her body. Originally her left thigh was entirely covered, but the alterations left it almost fully exposed. For all its balance, restraint, and visual harmony, this is a representation of lust, coercion, and implicit violence, soon to become explicit as the story advances. But it is Santerre's achievement, albeit a rather paradoxical one, to have restrained all these currents of lust and violence firmly beneath the surface of his immaculately finished canvas, in which the passions and the moral purpose of the story of Susanna are set aside, and we are left with an aesthetically pleasing exercise in form, tone, and visual harmony.